On my 22nd birthday, my parents called me a burden and kicked me out into an Austin storm. Their words cut deeper than the rain, stripping away my home, my security. In that moment, under Texas skies, I stood alone, betrayed, with nothing but 2 suitcases and a broken heart. But I knew their financial secrets. Passwords they never changed, accounts they thought untouchable. In my anger, I used that knowledge to freeze their credit cards, watching their perfect Austin world unravel. Their luxury car payments failed, their country club status faltered, their facade of wealth crumbled under the weight of their own cruelty. I'd spent years under their control, my dreams of graphic design mocked as worthless. That rainy night, as lightning lit up the Texas horizon, I took back my power. It wasn't about stealing, it was about showing them the chaos they'd sown. But this isn't just a story of revenge, it's about what came after. Stay with me to see how I turned their betrayal into my triumph, building a life from the ashes they left behind. If you've ever been cast out or controlled, hit subscribe. This is my Texas comeback, and I'm here to share it with you. My name's Hannah, a graphic design student at UT Austin, chasing a dream that felt like rebellion. I grew up in a sprawling suburban mansion, surrounded by wealth that never brought warmth. My parents, Evelyn and David, built a life of luxury in Austin's elite circles, but their love came with a price. Every choice, my friends, my passions, was weighed against their expectations. To the outside world, we were the perfect Texas family, but inside those walls, I was suffocating. My art was my escape, a spark they tried to snuff out. This is my story of breaking free from their chains. Evelyn and David wielded money like invisible chains, binding me to their vision of who I should be. My mother, Evelyn, a former homecoming queen, demanded perfection. Straight as, polished appearance, no room for flaws. My drawings were messy, my dreams of design childish. David, a financial advisor, controlled the purse strings. Every expense, from textbooks to coffee, was scrutinized. When I wanted to join UT's photography club, he shut it down. Cameras are expensive, Hannah, and your grades don't justify it. They set up joint bank accounts to help with college, but it was surveillance, every dollar tracked. I hid cash from my coffee shop job, a small rebellion against their grip. Their marriage, a cold alliance for status, played out through me. Evelyn's social calendar, David's financial rule. In Austin's high society, they projected success, but at home, their hushed arguments echoed through the halls. I was their pawn, my future a battleground for their control, my love for design a threat to their perfect plan. In Texas, where image is everything, my parents thrived on appearances. At state fairs, charity galas, and Austin's swanky fundraisers, we were the family everyone envied. Evelyn in designer dresses, David shaking hands with business elites, me forced to smile like a prop in their charade. They boasted about my partial scholarship to UT, claiming credit for my success, but behind closed doors I was never enough. Evelyn's sighs followed my every step. Why can't you be more like your cousin Rachel, already climbing the corporate ladder? My graphic design major was a disgrace, a phase they refused to fund. David's monthly budget reviews dissected my spending. $5 coffees became lectures on responsibility. At a packed Austin restaurant, Evelyn once humiliated me before her garden club friends, saying my art was embarrassing. The sting of their judgment cut deeper than their words. I learned to hide my true self, sneaking art supplies, lying about late nights at the library to work on my portfolio. Their control wasn't just financial, it was emotional, a relentless pressure to fit their mold. In Texas, where community runs deep, I felt like an outsider in my own home. But that isolation fueled a fire in me, a determination to break free. If you've ever felt trapped by family expectations, you'll understand what drove me to fight back. This is my story. Stay with me to see how it unfolds. From my earliest memories, my mother, Evelyn, was a shadow I could never escape. She was Austin's golden girl once, Homecoming queen, valedictorian, the woman who had it all. But to me, she was a relentless critic, her disappointment a constant weight. My A- grades at UT Austin were failures in her eyes, unworthy of her perfect legacy. "Why can't you just try harder, Hannah?" she'd sigh, her voice sharp enough to cut. My passion for graphic design, the one thing that lit me up, was dismissed as childish scribbling. I'd spend hours sketching, pouring my soul into every line, only to hear her call my work messy or a waste of time. In our pristine suburban home, where every surface gleamed like a magazine spread, my art was the one imperfection she couldn't tolerate. I remember showing her a digital poster I'd crafted for a school project, my heart racing with pride. She barely glanced at it before saying, "It's not practical, Hannah. You'll never make a living like that." Her words stung, planting doubts that gnawed at me. In Texas, where hard work is revered, I felt like a failure for chasing what I loved. But those criticisms only fueled my quiet defiance, pushing me to hide my sketchbooks, to nurture my dreams in secret. Evelyn's judgment wasn't just about grades or art. It was about control, about molding me into someone I wasn't. Every day felt like a battle to prove I was enough, a battle I was losing. My father, David, was different but no less suffocating. A financial advisor with a thriving Austin firm. He wielded money like a weapon, each dollar a chain to keep me in line. "As long as I pay the bills, you follow my rules," he'd say, his voice calm but unyielding. When I begged to join UT's photography club, dreaming of capturing Austin's vibrant sunsets, he shut it down cold. "Cameras are expensive, Hannah, and your grades don't justify the cost." It wasn't about the money. His luxury car parked in our driveway proved that. It was about power. Every purchase, from textbooks to a $5 coffee, was tracked through joint bank accounts he insisted on managing for my college expenses. I'd open my banking app and see his name next to mine, a reminder I wasn't free. At monthly budget reviews, he'd lecture me on financial responsibility, questioning every art supply I bought. I started working extra shifts at a campus coffee shop, hiding cash in a locked box under my dorm bed, a small act of rebellion against his grip. In Texas, where self-reliance is a badge of honor, I felt like a prisoner in my own life. David's control extended beyond money. He saw my design passion as a dead end, a betrayal of the stable future he'd planned. His silence was louder than Evelyn's criticisms, a quiet verdict that I'd never measure up. The pressure to abandon graphic design for a real career was a constant drumbeat in our house. 3 months before my senior year at UT, David issued an ultimatum over Sunday dinner, his knife slicing through steak with surgical precision. "Graphic design is useless, Hannah. Artists starve. Switch to business or finance, or we're done supporting you." Evelyn nodded, her face a mask of agreement. "Your father's right. This art phase has gone on long enough." I sat frozen, fork halfway to my mouth, my final portfolio project already underway. "I'm good at design," I protested. "Professor Willis says I have real talent." David's laugh was cold. "Professor Willis isn't paying your tuition." Their words echoed a Texas mantra. Stability over dreams. But to me, design wasn't a phase, it was my identity, my way of making sense of the world. They saw it as a childish indulgence, not a career. Evelyn suggested I follow my cousin Rachel, a star accountant at a Dallas firm. Her path a shining example of success. I'd lie awake at night, sketching in secret, knowing every stroke defied their vision for me. In Austin, where innovation thrives, I felt trapped in their outdated expectations. Their insistence on business wasn't about my future. It was about their legacy, their need to control the narrative of our perfect family. My dreams were collateral damage in their quest for status. In Texas, appearances are everything, and my parents mastered the art of perfection. At an upscale Austin restaurant, surrounded by Evelyn's garden club friends. I was paraded as the dutiful daughter. But that night the mask slipped. As waiters served wine under glittering chandeliers, Evelyn turned to me, her voice loud enough for the table to hear. "Hannah's still chasing her little art hobby at UT. Not like Rachel, who's already a senior accountant at a top firm." The table fell silent, eyes darting to me, pity and judgment mixing in their gazes. I stared at my plate, cheeks burning, my passion reduced to a punchline. "Design isn't a hobby," I muttered, but Evelyn's smile was sharp. "It's not a career either, dear." The humiliation stung deeper than her private criticisms, a public reminder I'd never be enough. Back home, she'd criticize my unkempt hair or questionable friends like Chloe, who dared to live freely. I started hiding my portfolio work, sneaking to the library to finish projects, knowing they'd never understand. In Texas, where community binds us, I felt like an outsider in my own family. That dinner was a turning point, a spark that fueled my rebellion. Their need to control me in front of Austin's elite showed me their love was conditional, tied to their image. I vowed to prove them wrong, to build a life where my art defined me, not their expectations. As my 22nd birthday approached, I clung to a fragile hope that things could change. For years, my parents, Evelyn and David, had suffocated me with their control, criticizing my grades, mocking my graphic design dreams. But in the quiet of our Austin home, I imagined this milestone might soften them. Maybe they'd see me, not as a disappointment, but as their daughter chasing a future I believed in. I pictured us at our polished dining table, sharing laughter, maybe even a cake like the families I saw at Texas fairs. I'd spent weeks preparing a gift for them, a framed digital portrait I designed, blending their old wedding photo with Austin's skyline, a symbol of unity. I thought it might bridge the gap, show them my talent could mean something. In Texas, where family runs deep, I yearned for that connection, a moment to heal the wounds of their disapproval. I stayed up late, practicing what I'd say. "I'm trying to make you proud, even if it's not your way." But beneath that hope, a knot of doubt tightened. Their cold silences, their relentless expectations, whispered that I was chasing a dream as fleeting as a Texas summer breeze. Still, I held on, believing my birthday could be the day we'd finally understand each other, the day I'd feel like I belonged. The morning of my 22nd birthday dawned with a stillness that felt like a warning. I walked into our gleaming kitchen, heart pounding, hoping for a smile, a "Happy birthday, Hannah." But Evelyn sat at the counter, her eyes glued to her iPad, scrolling through Austin's socialite news, her coffee steaming untouched. David was buried in his newspaper, the rustle of pages the only sound breaking the silence. I stood there, clutching the wrapped portrait I'd made, its edges digging into my palms. "Good morning," I said softly, my voice trembling with hope. Neither looked up. Evelyn tapped her screen, muttering about a charity gala. David turned a page, his face unreadable. The air felt heavy, like the calm before a Texas storm. I'd bought a single cupcake the night before, a small act of self-love, its pink frosting a splash of color in our sterile home. I set it on the counter, waiting for them to notice. They didn't. I tried again, louder. "It's my birthday today." Evelyn's eyes flicked up, then back down. "We're busy, Hannah," she said, her tone as cold as the marble beneath her. David didn't even stir. My hope withered, replaced by a familiar ache. In Texas, where community binds us, my own family treated me like a stranger, their indifference a silent verdict that I wasn't worth celebrating. By evening, my birthday felt like a fading dream. I'd spent the day at UT, distracting myself with design work, but the sting of my parents' indifference lingered. When I returned home, the house was dark, no sign of celebration. Then, Evelyn's voice called me to the living room, sharp and final. I found them there, David standing by the fireplace, Evelyn perched on the sofa, her face a mask of resolve. "Sit down, Hannah," David said, his voice low like a judge delivering a sentence. My stomach churned as I obeyed, the portrait still unopened in my room. "You're 22 now," he began, "and you've become a burden." The word hit like a slap, stealing my breath. "Your art obsession, your defiance, it's draining us." Evelyn nodded, her eyes cold. "We've given you everything, and you've thrown it away for a useless degree." I tried to speak, to defend my passion, my straight-A effort, but David cut me off. "Pack your things. You're out tonight." The room spun. In Texas, where family is sacred, my parents were casting me out, their love conditional on my surrender. I begged, my voice breaking. "This is my home." But David's gaze was stone. "Not anymore," he said, tossing my house key onto the coffee table, its clatter echoing like a gunshot. Numb with shock, I stumbled to my room, their words, burden useless, looping in my mind. Outside, a Texas storm raged, rain hammering the windows, thunder shaking the walls. I packed 2 suitcases, my hands trembling, stuffing clothes, my sketchbook, the unopened portrait I'd made for them. The house felt like a tomb, its silence louder than the storm. I glanced at the kitchen as I headed to the door, my pink cupcake still on the counter, its frosting melting, a symbol of my shattered hope. I'd bought it to celebrate myself, but now it mocked me, forgotten like my place in this family. I stepped into the rain, the cold biting my skin, my suitcases heavy as I dragged them down the driveway. Behind me, the door slammed shut, the lock clicking with finality. Lightning tore across the Austin sky, illuminating the home I'd never return to. In Texas, where roots run deep, I was uprooted, cast out for daring to be myself. My tears mixed with the rain, but beneath the pain, a spark of defiance flickered. They thought they'd broken me, but I'd show them I could survive. As I walked into the storm, I vowed to build a life where I defined my worth, not them. If you've ever been rejected by those meant to love you, you'll know this pain, and the strength it can ignite. After my parents cast me out, I landed on Chloe's worn-out sofa, my world reduced to a corner of her tiny Austin apartment. My suitcases leaned against the wall, a constant reminder of my exile. Chloe, my best friend since high school, opened her home without hesitation, her warm Texas hospitality a lifeline in my darkest hour. But the cramped space, cluttered with her thrift store furniture and my scattered belongings, felt like a cage. I'd lie awake at night, the hum of the AC battling Austin's summer heat, replaying my parents' words. Burden. Useless. My graphic design dreams, once a beacon, now seemed out of reach. I had no job, no savings, just a student ID and a half-finished portfolio. Chloe's encouragement, "You're stronger than this, Hannah," kept me going, but fear gnawed at me. In Texas, where self-reliance is a way of life, I felt like a failure, dependent on a friend's charity. I'd scroll through job listings on my cracked phone screen, each rejection email a blow to my fragile hope. My parents had stripped away my home, my security, leaving me to rebuild from nothing. But even in that chaos, a quiet resolve grew. I'd fight to prove them wrong, to carve out a life that was mine. A week after my birthday, I checked my bank account, heart sinking as the screen flashed a balance of $237.48. My parents had frozen our joint account, cutting off the funds I'd relied on for tuition, groceries, everything. David's name still lingered on the account, a ghost of his control, mocking my newfound freedom. I stared at the numbers, my palms sweaty, calculating how long I could survive on that pittance in Austin's rising costs. Then a text from David lit up my phone, cold and demanding. "Return the laptop by Friday. It's family property." That laptop held my design portfolio, my late-night sketches, my entire future. His words felt like a final twist of the knife, erasing me from their lives. In Texas, where family is supposed to stand together, my father was stripping me bare. I couldn't afford a lawyer, couldn't fight his claim. Panic set in, my breath shallow as I sat on Chloe's sofa, clutching the phone. I'd hidden some cash from my coffee shop job, but it wasn't enough. My parents had built a financial cage, and even in exile, I was trapped by their reach. But that text sparked something fierce in me, a refusal to let them take everything. I vowed to protect what was mine, to find a way forward, no matter the cost. Desperate for stability, I turned to UT Austin's financial aid office, hoping for a lifeline. I stood in line, clutching my student ID, the weight of my suitcases still fresh in my memory. The office was a blur of anxious faces, papers rustling, phones ringing. When my turn came, I explained my situation: evicted, cut off, no support. The clerk's eyes softened, but her words were a gut punch. You're still listed as a dependent on your parents' taxes. Without their income data, we can't adjust your aid. Dependent. The word stung, a cruel irony after they'd called me a burden. My partial scholarship covered tuition, but rent, food, and books were beyond my reach. In Texas, where hard work is supposed to pave the way, I was stuck in a bureaucratic trap, punished for my parents' rejection. I pleaded, my voice cracking, but the clerk shook her head, offering only a pamphlet on emergency loans I couldn't qualify for. Walking out, I felt the walls closing in, my dreams of graduating slipping away. Chloe's sofa was my only refuge, but I couldn't live off her kindness forever. That denial fueled a fire in me, to break free of their shadow, to prove I could stand on my own, even if it meant starting from nothing. Austin's summer heat was relentless, the air thick and suffocating as I trudged through the city, chasing any chance to survive. The sun blazed at 95 degrees, sweat soaking my shirt as I handed out resumes at coffee shops, bookstores, anywhere that might hire a student with no experience. Each "will call you" felt like another door slamming shut. My $237.48 was dwindling. $1.20 for groceries, $10 for a bus pass, every cent a choice between eating or getting to class. Back at Chloe's, I'd stare at my laptop, David's demand to return it haunting me. It was my only tool for design, my ticket to a future. In Texas, where grit is celebrated, I felt like I was failing, my desperation peaking with each passing day. I'd wake up gasping from nightmares of homelessness, my parents' voices echoing, "You'll never make it." Chloe's faith in me, "You're a fighter, Hannah," was a lifeline, but doubt crept in. Was I chasing a dream I couldn't afford? Yet, in that sweltering heat, a stubborn spark refused to die. I'd survive not for them but for me. If you've ever felt the world against you, you know this fight, to rise when everything says you'll fall. A week after my eviction, I sat across from Tyler, a UT classmate with a knack for tech, in a quiet corner of Chloe's apartment. My life was in tatters. $237.48 in my account. Sleeping on a sofa, my parents' betrayal still raw. Tyler leaned in, his voice low, eyes glinting with mischief. "Your parents' financial security. It's a house of cards, Hannah." He'd overheard me venting about David's control, how he'd frozen my account, demanded my laptop. Tyler, who'd taken a cybersecurity elective, asked about their habits. I remembered David's smug pride in his unhackable systems, using the same password for years. His birth year, 1965, plus his company name, Apex Advisors. Evelyn was no better, reusing old email recovery addresses I'd seen on her phone. "They're lazy," Tyler said, "and that's their weakness." In Texas, where trust is earned, their arrogance felt like an open door. My heart raced. Not with fear, but with possibility. I wasn't planning to steal, just to disrupt, to make them feel the chaos they'd forced on me. Tyler sketched out how I could use legal security measures like credit freezes to lock their accounts. Their rejection had stripped me bare, but this knowledge was power, a chance to fight back on my terms. The next evening, Tyler and I met at a dimly lit Austin coffee shop, its neon sign buzzing above us. The air smelled of espresso and rain, a storm brewing outside, mirroring the turmoil in my chest. We huddled over his laptop, plotting how to freeze my parents' credit cards without breaking the law. Tyler's fingers flew across the keys, pulling up public records, explaining how credit bureaus allowed freezes with basic info I had from years under their control. "It's not hacking," he insisted. "It's using their own system against them." But as he spoke, a knot tightened in my stomach. Was I crossing a line? In Texas, where integrity matters, I wondered if revenge would make me as cold as Evelyn and David. "They called you a burden," Tyler said, his voice firm. "They don't deserve your mercy." His words stoked my anger, the pain of my birthday betrayal flooding back. Yet I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. I saw Evelyn's face, David's smirk, their perfect life built on my sacrifice. This wasn't about hurting them, it was about justice, about showing them I wasn't powerless. I pushed down my doubts, nodding to Tyler. We'd disrupt their world, legally, temporarily, just enough to make them falter. But deep inside, a voice whispered, would this set me free or bind me to their cruelty? Late that night, alone in Chloe's apartment, I sat with Tyler's laptop, the glow of the screen casting shadows on the walls. My heart pounded as I navigated to the credit bureau sites, using the info Tyler had prepped. David's birth year, Evelyn's old email. It was all there, their financial lives laid bare by their own carelessness. With a few clicks, I initiated credit freezes, locking their accounts from new transactions. It was legal, a security measure anyone could use, but in their case it'd halt payments, car loans, country club dues, their lavish Austin lifestyle. I imagined Evelyn's card declining at her favorite boutique, David's humiliation at a client dinner. My hands shook, not from fear, but from the thrill of reclaiming power. In Texas, where actions speak louder than words, this was my stand. I wasn't stealing, wasn't destroying, just pressing pause on their perfect facade. As the confirmation emails arrived, a wave of satisfaction washed over me. They'd thrown me out, called me worthless, but now they'd feel the weight of their choices. Yet, even in that moment, a flicker of unease lingered. I'd struck back, but at what cost? Would this victory heal the ache of their rejection, or deepen the wound? I closed the laptop, the storm outside fading, but my inner turmoil just beginning. The next morning, I woke on Chloe's sofa, the weight of what I'd done settling like dust. I'd frozen my parents' credit cards, set their world teetering, but the thrill was gone, replaced by a gnawing question. Am I becoming like them? Evelyn's cold judgment, David's manipulative control. Had I mirrored their cruelty in my revenge? In Texas, where we pride ourselves on doing right, I felt unmoored, my moral compass spinning. I pictured their confusion, their anger, and part of me reveled in it. They deserved to squirm, to lose their smug certainty, just as I'd lost my home. But another part, quieter, ached with guilt. I'd acted legally, hadn't stolen a dime, but was this who I wanted to be? Someone who struck back, who let pain dictate their choices. I opened my sketchbook, tracing lines that once brought me peace, but my hands felt heavy. Chloe noticed my silence, asking, "You okay, Hannah?" I couldn't answer. My parents had shaped me with their rejection, but did I have to let their darkness shape my response? I thought of my graphic design dreams, my fight to graduate. Those were my true rebellion, not this fleeting act of vengeance. If you've ever wrestled with right and wrong, you know this struggle. To rise above those who hurt you, to choose a path that's yours, not theirs. The morning after I froze their credit cards, I could almost feel the ripple of chaos hitting my parents' perfect world. Evelyn, always the queen of Austin's social scene, was at her favorite upscale restaurant, surrounded by her garden club friends, their laughter filling the air. She handed her platinum card to the waiter, expecting the usual seamless transaction. But the waiter returned, his face apologetic. "I'm sorry, ma'am, your card was declined." Silence fell over the table, her friend's whispers slicing through her pride. Evelyn, who'd called me a burden, now faced her own humiliation, her status crumbling in front of Austin's elite. Across town, David was at a client lunch, his charm on full display as he pitched his financial expertise. When the bill arrived, he slid his card with confidence, only to hear the server murmur, "Sir, it's not going through." His client raised an eyebrow, the moment exposing a crack in his polished facade. In Texas, where reputation is everything, these small failures were earthquakes, shaking the foundation of their carefully curated lives. I wasn't there to see it, but I knew. Evelyn's forced smile, David's clenched jaw. They'd built their world on control, but I'd turned their own system against them, legally, with a few clicks. For the first time I held the power, and their perfect Austin dream was unraveling. Back at their sprawling suburban mansion, Evelyn and David were spiraling. They sat in their pristine living room, phones pressed to their ears, battling with banks and credit bureaus. "It must be identity theft," Evelyn insisted, her voice shrill, a far cry from her usual composure. David, the man who'd always preached financial security, barked at a representative, demanding answers. Their perfect harmony, built on status and control, cracked under the pressure. Soon, their hushed arguments turned into shouts, loud enough for neighbors to hear through open windows. "You said our accounts were secure, David," Evelyn snapped, her words carrying across their manicured lawn. David shot back, "Don't blame me. You never checked the statements." In Texas, where community watches closely, their public unraveling was a spectacle, their private flaws laid bare. They filed a police report, convinced hackers had targeted them, never suspecting their discarded daughter. I learned this from my cousin Rachel, who texted me confused. "Aunt Evelyn's losing it. What's happening?" Their panic was my doing, a legal disruption that exposed their fragility. For years they'd controlled me with money, silenced my dreams, but now they were flailing, their empire of appearances crumbling. Yet, as I read Rachel's text, a chill settled in. I'd wanted them to feel my pain, but their chaos echoed too closely to mine. Was this justice, or had I become the one pulling strings? On Chloe's sofa, I replayed my parents' downfall in my mind, a strange mix of satisfaction and guilt churning inside me. I'd pictured Evelyn's embarrassment, David's client smirking, and it felt good, too good. They'd called me worthless, thrown me out on my birthday, and now they were tasting their own medicine. In Texas, where we settle scores, I'd evened ours, showing them I wasn't the powerless girl they'd discarded. But as the high faded, a heaviness took its place. I'd acted legally, used their own weaknesses against them, but was I any better? Evelyn's cold judgment, David's manipulative grip. Had I mirrored their tactics, letting anger shape me? I opened my sketchbook, my refuge, but the lines felt forced, my hands unsteady. Chloe noticed my quiet, asking, "You did what you had to, right?" I nodded, but doubt gnawed at me. In Texas, where we pride ourselves on doing right, I wondered if I'd lost my way. My parents deserved consequences, but this satisfaction was fleeting, a hollow victory. I thought of my graphic design dreams, my fight to rebuild. They were my true defiance, not this act of vengeance. If you've ever tasted revenge, you know this tug of war. The thrill of justice, the weight of guilt, and the search for a path that doesn't break you. In the weeks after freezing my parents' credit cards, I felt a hollow ache beneath my fleeting satisfaction. Their chaos, Evelyn's declined card, David's client lunch fiasco, was my doing, but it didn't fill the void they'd left. I started seeing Dr. Nelson, a UT counselor, in a small office cluttered with books and hope. Her voice was steady, her words piercing. "Revenge ties you to them, Hannah. Every act of anger keeps you bound to their pain." I sat there, clutching a tissue, my defenses crumbling. She was right. I'd wanted Evelyn and David to suffer, to feel my exile. But each thought of their downfall dragged me back to that rainy Austin night, my suitcases heavy, their door slamming shut. Dr. Nelson leaned forward, her eyes kind. What if you chose yourself instead? Your dreams, your future. In Texas, where we're taught to stand tall, I'd been stooping under their rejection. Her words were a mirror, showing me how my vengeance, though legal, had chained me to their cruelty. I left her office lighter, the seed of healing planted. My parents had cast me out, but I didn't have to live in their shadow. I could build a life defined by my strength, not their betrayal. If you've ever been hurt, you know this truth. Letting go isn't weakness, it's freedom. Back at UT, I poured myself into my graphic design classes, my sketchbook a sanctuary from the storm of my past. Professor Willis, a grizzled artist with a sharp eye, called me to his office one afternoon. My portfolio was spread across his desk, my latest project, a vibrant poster inspired by Austin's music scene, catching the light. "Hannah," he said, his voice gruff but warm, "this is exceptional. You've got real talent." My breath caught. For years, Evelyn had called my art childish. David had deemed it useless. But here was someone who saw me. He leaned back, studying me. "You've been through hell, haven't you? Don't let it define you. Focus on your future, not their mistakes." In Texas, where grit fuels success, his words were a call to action. He told me about a design internship in Austin, a chance to turn my passion into a career. I left his office, my steps lighter, my purpose clearer. My parents had tried to snuff out my spark, but Professor Willis fanned it into a flame. I wasn't just surviving, I was creating, building a path that was mine alone. Their rejection had wounded me, but my talent was my rebellion, my way of proving them wrong without sinking to their level. If you've ever doubted your worth, you know how one voice of belief can change everything. One quiet morning, I sat in Chloe's apartment, my laptop open, the weight of my choices pressing down. Dr. Nelson's words echoed. Revenge tied me to them. Professor Willis's faith in me urged me forward. It was time to let go. I drafted an anonymous email to my parents, guiding them to unfreeze their credit accounts. A simple fix for the chaos I'd caused. My fingers hesitated over the send button, but I clicked it, a quiet exhale marking the end of my vengeance. Then I opened the monitoring app Tyler had shown me, the one tracking their financial stumbles. With a few clicks, I deleted it, the screen going blank, my heart lighter. In Texas, where we rise above hardship, I was choosing my own path, not theirs. I didn't need to watch their world crumble to feel whole. My graphic design portfolio, my internship prospects, they were my victory, not their pain. I thought of Evelyn and David, still trapped in their world of appearances, and felt a pang of pity. They'd lost me, their daughter, to their own pride. But I was free, my future no longer tethered to their rejection. I closed my laptop, sunlight streaming through the window, a new chapter beginning. If you've ever carried hurt, you know this release. Cutting the chains of the past to build a life that's truly yours. A year after my parents' betrayal, I stood on UT Austin's stage, my cap tassel swaying as I accepted my graphic design degree. The crowd's cheers washed over me, but my eyes found Chloe and Tyler in the stands, their proud smiles my true reward. That diploma was more than paper. It was proof I'd survived. Professor Willis's internship lead had landed me a job at an Austin design firm, crafting vibrant campaigns for local brands. My first paycheck, earned with my own talent, felt like freedom. In Texas, where hard work carves your path, I'd built mine from the ashes of their rejection. Evelyn and David weren't there. No surprise. They'd called my art useless, but now it paid my rent, bought my groceries, defined my life. I'd spent nights on Chloe's sofa, scraping by on $237.48, but those struggles forged me. My portfolio, once hidden from their scorn, now impressed clients across Austin. I wasn't just a graduate. I was independent, my dreams no longer theirs to crush. Walking off that stage, I felt a quiet triumph, not over them, but for myself. If you've ever fought to prove your worth, you know this joy. Standing tall, not because they fell, but because you rose. My 23rd birthday was nothing like the last. Instead of a forgotten cupcake and a storm, I stood in Zilker Park, Austin's heart, surrounded by my chosen family. Chloe strung fairy lights across picnic tables, Tyler grilled burgers, and Professor Willis even showed up, toasting my success. Laughter echoed under the Texas sky, the skyline glowing in the distance. Last year, Evelyn and David had called me a burden, but here I was loved for being me. We shared a vibrant cake, its colors inspired by my designs, a nod to the art that saved me. In Texas, where community is everything, these friends were my roots, grounding me when my family had cut me loose. I looked around, my heart full, no longer aching for parents who couldn't see my worth. This birthday wasn't about revenge or pain. It was about joy, about claiming my place in a world I'd fought for. If you've ever built a family from scratch, you know this warmth. The glow of belonging, earned not by birth, but by love and loyalty. A week later, an email from a local art gallery lit up my phone. They wanted to feature my designs in a spring showcase. My work, once mocked by Evelyn, would hang on Austin's walls, a testament to my resilience. I stared at the screen, pride swelling, but a shadow lingered, my parents. They'd sent a stiff email months ago, claiming they'd forgiven me, expecting me to return. I didn't reply. In Texas, where we guard our peace, I set boundaries instead. I wrote back, calm but firm. I wished them well but needed distance to protect my growth. They'd shaped me with their rejection, but I'd reshaped myself with my strength. I didn't need their approval anymore. My art, my job, my chosen family were enough. Closing my laptop, I felt unburdened, my future mine to define. If you've ever had to walk away to find yourself, you know this power. Choosing who you let in, building a life that reflects your truth, not their expectations. Looking back, I thought revenge would mend the pain of my parents' betrayal, but it didn't. Freezing their credit cards gave me a fleeting thrill, a momentary sense of control, but it was a hollow victory. True healing came from my independence. Graduating UT Austin, landing a design job, building a life on my terms. Evelyn and David's rejection wasn't my failure. It was theirs. They chose pride over love, status over family, and lost me in the process. In Texas, where resilience runs deep, I learned my worth wasn't tied to their approval. My art, once mocked, now lights up Austin galleries. My chosen family, Chloe, Tyler, Professor Willis, gave me roots when my parents cut me loose. I rose not by tearing them down, but by lifting myself up. If you've been hurt by those meant to love you, know this. Your strength is your story. Their rejection doesn't define you. Your courage does. I found my path through pain, and you can too. Let go of vengeance and embrace the life you deserve, one built on your own terms. My journey from rejection to triumph is one story, but I know I'm not alone. If you've faced family rejection, felt the sting of being cast out, or fought to rebuild, your voice matters. Share your story in the comments below. Let's create a space where pain turns to power. In Texas, we're stronger together, and I've started a support group for those healing from family wounds. Join us to connect, share, and grow. Details are in the description. Hit that like button if my story resonated, and subscribe to this channel for more tales of resilience and redemption. Every story we tell, every step we take, builds a community that rises above hurt. Let's not just survive. Let's thrive, proving to ourselves and the world that we are enough. Click the bell icon so you never miss an update, and let's keep this conversation going. If you're ready to turn pain into purpose, take that first step today. Share, connect, rise. Together, we'll build lives that shine brighter than the Texas stars. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.